Hello, art teachers. Today I'm going to talk about one of my favorite projects that I do with second grade each year. We make these paper doll self-portraits. There are several things I'm looking for in this project. The most obvious, it's a self-portrait, which we all often teach self-portraits at different grade levels. But in this, I'm specifically wanting them to learn how to use a stencil. And this is an important cognitive step that some children struggle with, but I'll talk about that in a minute. It's a multi-step process. In kindergarten and first, most of what we're doing is make and take. This project has multiple discrete steps that build to the final project. Last, but very importantly, is we're focusing on self-portraits, not just what you look like, but who you are as a person. So after we've made the picture of you, I want to know more about you. I want to know what you're like, who you are, what are the things you like to do. And even though I have seen this work of art many times, I just noticed that he's wearing his school ID and a smartwatch. I use these pre-cut paper shapes. They come 40 in a pack, so in a grade level with 100 kids, I usually get at least 3 packs. You could have them trace a figure and cut it out using multicultural construction paper, but this makes it go much faster. I like to start with this. For the clothes, I've got a nice big collection of scrapbook paper. I'm always reaching out to people to give me leftover paper. Any leftover printed paper or painted paper will do. I actively collect scrapbook paper for this and several other projects. I always separate out some good hair colors. Now, sometimes they do use crazy colorful hair colors, but it's easier for them to find the hair color they're looking for if I put those aside in a separate bin. Other than that, you're going to need pretty much the standard tools that you would have for elementary art. Now, this takes a little prep work. Since I do this project year to year, I just cut a few more pieces to refresh whatever has gotten torn up the previous year, because they do take a beating. I cut these out of file folders. To get the right size, I just trace the figure and make a variety of pieces. Shorts and pants, different kinds of shirts, a number of different dresses. And you'll notice I've written all over them to make them unattractive, because this is really tricky. I demonstrate this, but sometimes they don't quite get the concept until they've done it wrong once. About 10% of my students are going to want to actually glue this stencil right to their person. So getting them to understand that the stencil is not the thing we're gluing down. The stencil represents the shape that we're going to cut out of something else. So that's why the patterns can take a beating, because oftentimes they get glued down and then pulled up. But this is what I want to do. They should pick out the piece of clothing that they want, say these pants, and pick out a piece of paper, which I often find myself slipping and calling it cloth or fabric, because that's what I'm thinking. So we're going to pick out a pattern that you want the pants to be in. They often want to trace on the colorful side. If there's a blank side, I always try to get them to turn it over and trace on the white side, because then it's going to be much easier to see. Then we cut that shape out, and then we glue it onto our person. I always have them do the clothes before they do the hair, the face, the shoes. Usually if they're confused and they glue down the stencil the first time, when I show them the right way to do it, they're like, okay, I get it. And then they're off to the races. But strangely, even if they do the whole outfit, when it comes to the shoe and the hair, they still want to glue down the shoe. So again, you have to help them through that. And the other tricky thing is they want to find 2 shoes that match. And so I've got to help them see that they really only need 1 shoe pattern. They just need to trace it twice, each time pointing in the different direction. And this can be kind of tricky, especially when everybody is working at once. You don't catch it all. If they make 2 shoes going the same way, that's perfectly fine. If it doesn't bother them, it doesn't bother me. I've got a variety of hairs. I've seen them do some really great creative stuff with the hair. Here's a picture of my hair cart. You can see I've got the hair colors all in a tub and all of the hair stencils together in a bin. It's a lot to keep track of because there's so many stencils, but I try to keep the tops, the bottoms, the hair, and the shoes all in separate trays. Honestly, the whole thing is a mess everywhere. And so I have to keep circulating around, picking up stencils and putting them back in the bin so that they're not lost forever in all of the scrap. But they're not hard to make some more. So here we have a couple of my students working. Here they are putting on their shoes. And then here are a lot of students working. You can see what a mess the table gets to be. They can draw their faces on, or sometimes I cut out circles for them. They're really kind of small for them to cut. So they can glue on their face if they would like. So you want to have crayons, colored pencils, markers handy. Then after the doll is done, the project is not done because, and I talk about this at the very beginning, but then I need to talk, we usually do it over 2 days. So I usually have to talk about it again after they've finished their person. So now I know what you look like, but I want to know about you. What can you put on your art that tells me about you? You can see on mine, I put Mrs. Wineland, and I'm 57 years old. Now, I made this sample 3 years ago. How old do you think I am now? There are all sorts of things that you can add to your artwork. I have a dog, and I like to make art. I like to wear a lot of jewelry. So I want you to make your art with all the details about what you like to do and what's important to you. Now, a lot of them at this point are going to be drawing a blank. So I suggest, are there any games you like to play? Do any of you do sports? Are any of you in a dance or gymnastics? Do you have brothers and sisters? Just sort of get it rolling. And then they're like, oh yeah, I know what I'm going to do. And so these are some of my favorite. Sadly, her dog died. And she put a little angel dog in there. This guy drew stuff on the side. He also put stuff on his shirt. And in the corner, you can see my little sister is just a little stick person. I like this one because Nasir was concerned about how to do his hair because he's got little golden dreadlocks, and none of my pear patterns matched what his hair looks like. And so I said, well, I'll help you. We'll figure it out. But let me do something first. I'm going to come right back to you. And by the time I came back to him, he had already figured it out. Girl has got all sorts of stuff going on. She's got her pets, fish, and her dancing. This is a really great project if you want to do some cross-curricular connection with writing. A lot of times they ask me to spell stuff, but I don't really care if it's spelled right or not. The important thing is they're expressing about themselves. So Sinai here, I want you to see that crossbody bag is actually three-dimensional and it opens up. This guy finished himself and he didn't have enough paper, so he got another paper. He's drawing his kitchen. We all have those students that are so quick to say, oh, I'm finished. And you encourage them, they don't want to do anything else. And so I love when I get kids that just want to keep on going and adding. I really like what Kimberly did with her hair here. I didn't have any hair that fit what she wanted, so she made her own. And I always tell them, you don't have to use my patterns. You can make it any way you want. And Victoria just wanted to keep on making clothes, so she made herself a little closet. That closet on the left actually closes. And above her head there, that's a shoe closet. You can see, it's hard to see because they use the same colors, but she actually has an extra pair of shoes cut out there. And those little flaps close too, and then the whole thing folds up together. So even though we're all starting with the same basic body shape and all the same patterns, you can see how everybody personalizes it and makes it their own, adding the details they want, choosing their skin color, doing their hair, and adding all those personal details. I'm Heidi Howe, and I hope your class has as much fun doing this project as we do.